Hello everyone, I'm Second Aegis and welcome to the second vlog of my Pokemon games. Today, I'm going to fix up some small errors in the first few areas which I made, and continue on with mapping Area 3, the current and final area before I can move on with the PBS files. Without further ado, let's start. First thing I need to mention up front is that Windows Screen Recorder only records a single window. So for programs like RPG Maker XP, which opens several windows in order to edit a game, Windows just kinda records one and my mouse stands still and, well, it looks like a still image. What I'm doing in the background is changing the tiles so that when you step on them you would enter the correct section of the maps. Before, when you tried to enter the Pokemon Center, it would instead throw you into the gym. When you exit it, you would exit outside the gym. But if you enter the gym, you would enter the Pokemon Center, and so on and so forth. This was a small and easy fix, so without further ado, I moved on to completing Area 3. This next section isn't actually set in Area 3, but rather Area 2 because I needed to copy over the boat I used. After a small error, I copied over the boat and pasted it in there. It messed up the bridge a bit, but that was a quick and easy fix. All I had to do was add in the bit of the bridge, and it was done. Next, I tried to make a volcano. This area lacked a lot of personality. Areas 1 through 3 all had the same sort of general feel to it. It's just the same kind of islands. So this volcano was my hopefully attempt to make it feel more like its own unique island. However, this didn't go well. The volcano had some limitations, the first of which was size. In many Pokemon games, think Diamond and Pearl, which had Mount Coronet, a massive area was there, but could you actually see the entirety of it from the game? No, it was limited. You couldn't see the entirety of it, but you knew how big it was. That didn't apply here. This section of the game, or rather this section of the island, you could see the entirety of the volcano. This meant that I couldn't rely on the same. You can only see a part of it to show how big it is. Now I actually had to make the entirety of it, which would be physically impossible because, as you know, things get smaller in the end and I don't have enough space to make it. This next section is me fixing up the small errors I made along the way, which, well, I'll explain it right now. When I was trying to fit the volcano, I decided to fit the rest of the island to it and make the rocky stuff change from a more brown color to a lighter gray color. But since I removed the volcano, I also had to remove this part, which was sort of a blessing in disguise, because while doing this I noticed that I was missing some sections to the island, so I quickly added them. With that out of the way, I added some more border details to make things look a bit neater, and I continued to fix the small mistakes I made with the lighter gray rock materials. After that, I can move on with making the rest of the island. So, the first thing I decided to do is add in the tall grass, but to make this a little bit more unique, I decided I want to use super tall grass, but I couldn't get the tiles to look right. I personally thought they looked a bit off, like they didn't connect properly, so I instead decided to use the normal tall grass instead. After a bit of fiddling, I marked out an outline, as you're seeing me do in the background, before using the fill bucket and completing it. I did this another time because I didn't felt like the first was enough. It could still use a bit more personality, said my brain, so I decided to add a tree, and well, I still had the fill bucket equipped, so it filled in the entire map. That was a quick fix, and now but the tree still looked a bit off, so I had to do a bit more editing around, and Well, the trees looked even right. Now I try to add a sort of border around the tall grass, because a small idea I had when I was making this game is that these islands, they were not artificial. They were there from the beginning, and there were already people living there, and these islands were renovated in order to facilitate a Pokemon tournament. So that's why the fountains were there. They were to keep the wild grass boxed in, and they also served as an additional help towards the players, since that meant they could grind a lot easier, because it meant they would bump into walls and they could still move around. Here I add in a bit of a pathway between some stairs and the bridge, which serves as the fast travel with the boat. This was relatively quick since I knew what I had to do. It was simply connecting up the two. Once I did, I smoothed out the rough things I used, and eventually this section of the island was done. Next I added in some towns and other equipment. I couldn't get the pathways to properly link up with the rest of the towns properly, so I just ended it abruptly. What you're seeing me do right now in the background is attempting to make mines, but I couldn't get the mines to look right, so eventually I just made a small place and called it a day. Here's some small sections of me trying to map out the forest and trying to connect some sections of the island to the forest again, because clearly I did not learn from the first time. This is me fixing that forest again, because the first forest didn't feel right, so I deleted it and decided to start over. The general rule of thumb that I like to follow is that vertically the borders have to be 4 trees tall, and so that meant that the top and bottom borders had to have 4 trees, while the left and right had to be 3 trees. The reason for this is that if there were too little, you could see the infinite black edge to the rest of the screen. Eventually though, I decided to switch back to area 3 to see how big this area was supposed to be, and well, I realized that the initial area I made was simply too small, so I expanded it and added in the trees needed to border the area around. This is not a very interesting thing to put commentary around, but it's still a very vital process because these trees, as I mentioned before, they serve as a border so that you don't see the black smudges that appear outside the map. I filled in the top half of the trees and moved away and deleted the other half because those parts were not necessary anymore. So I finished around some details and I made it more crescent shaped to fit the initial forest area. After that, I added some ledges because they're a staple of the Pokemon games. I added in the tall grass a few more ledges, but something still didn't feel finished, so I tried adding a small L-shaped lake, but that didn't seem right. But after messing around a bit, that small puddle felt a lot more correct, so I called it a day. If you look here, I decided to make a tower. This tower is supposedly an old ancestral building of sorts, but it was like the rest of the islands, renovated in order to fit the more Pokemon League theme. That's supposed to be the desk in which people are well, I have no words for it. I might just describe them in the next video. Till then, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.